Fantasy plants are such an easy and quick way to introduce uniqueness into your campaign setting or into your D&D adventure. And they're not that difficult to make, and there's a ton of ways that you can use them really quickly to up the wonder and the awesome factor of your game. So what can you do with them? Let's light up the forge. Greetings and salutations. I'm Janet from World Anvil, and in this video I'm going through 5 ways that you can incorporate fantasy plants, magical plants, or even regular plants into your D&D campaign. If you're just looking for tips on how to well build fantasy plants, I have a video on that too. You can see it at the top and in the description. Tip number 1 for using fantasy plants is creatures. I'm talking Groot, Swamp Thing, tree ants, and ents. Sapient plants are a great way to change up the status quo and introduce different things, surprising things, to your players. They're also a great way to dig into the biome that your players are in. For example, if you're in a desert, why not Angry Cactus Man? In a swamp, how about these awesome vine golems from the Tome of Beasts? Spoopy, eh? And plant creatures don't always have to be aggressive. If you make something like these adorable mushroom boys, your players can meet them, fall in love with them, and then you can set their home on fire! Just an example. My second DM tip for using fantasy plants is for traps. Traps are an awesome part of any TTRPG campaign, D&D adventure, and the like. But they only really make sense, at least mechanical traps only really make sense, if somebody has been there to build them. Roll in the magical plant trap. These can appear literally anywhere in any biome because they are natural plants that are just growing there, and there's some really cool things you can do with them. Of course, you can go for the standard tangling vines, sticky slime mold, that kind of thing, plants which are either carnivorous or which are aggressive towards outsiders and lie in wait waiting for them, sprung kind of like a trap. But there's an even cooler way to do this, which is kind of sneaky, and I kind of super love it. The Swamp Lily from the Tome of Beasts 2 is a great example of this. The plant creates an illusion that there is a magnificent feast laid out in front of it. But what the players are actually eating is the poisonous roots of the plant. This knocks them unconscious, and they can then be devoured at leisure by the Swamp Lily. And an even sneakier example of this is the Ophio, which is based on the Cordyceps fungus. Both of these funguses, the Cordyceps fungus, which is real, and the Ophio fungus, which is a fantasy plant, can produce spores which are mind-controlling. The aim of the Ophio is to get its seeds spread as far and wide as possible. So it mind-controls its victims to go to different planes and spread those seeds. Super creepy, super cool, super subversive. By the way, the species template on World Anvil will really help you building your plant species and any other species that you need to build as well. It's packed with prompts to help you fill out the biome. Share it with your players if you want, or keep it private. DM tip number 3 for fantasy plants is magical and mundane items. Plants can be used as magical or mundane items. They can be crafted into magical or mundane items. Basically, there's a ton of stuff that you can do with them in this realm, and it's a great way to create things with unusual properties which are rare or hard to find. Some examples of this are as simple as bioluminescent fungus, which you can use as a non-fire-based light. Good light underwater, for example. The other example that comes to mind is special kinds of wood, which are especially hard, especially light, or especially flexible. So they're wonderful for certain applications. Or if you want to take this one step further, how about sapient pearwood, arcane trees, other kinds of magical wood? From shields which hurl insults to chess pieces which argue about strategy, this is a great way to create items which are innately magical without having to imbue them. And whether you're looking for a MacGuffin that is the center of a quest, or a useful reward for your players, this is a great one to consider. My favorite magical item in this category has to be the Frungulator from the Empire of the Ghouls. Half melted wand and half constructed of arcane trees, it's a device that creates chaotic magical effects. Kind of like the Wabberjack from Skyrim, but 3 times more fun. It is wacky, it is hilarious, it is a wonderful item. Big recommend. Tip number 4 for incorporating plants into your game is potions and poisons. So obviously you can use regular plants for this too, but if you want to use really strong potions and poison components, I suggest that you make them very rare, and fantasy plants are just a bit more fun. At least, I think so. These plants might only grow in very rare locations or under very rare conditions. They may only grow deep within a certain forest or in Phoenix Poop. In that case, sending your party looking for them is a great quest or side quest that can get them going in the direction that you want them to for something else. And on the other hand, these plants might be illegal or restricted, like opium poppies or marijuana in our world. In that case, prepare your players for an illicit adventure, bribing guards, dealing with a thieves guild, smuggling in a ship. There's all sorts of great ways that you can take this by using illicit substances, which are, of course, usually plant-based. And once they've got their hands on those substances, maybe they're hard to process or distill. They might need to find a high-level NPC in order to do this process for them, or they might have to undergo training. Both of these are great ways to introduce complexity into your campaign, particularly if that NPC wants a favor or something in return. And of course, when you're using poisons and potions, your players will want to use them tactically. Make sure you introduce the stats like saving throw DCs, how much damage the poison does, and how long it lasts. World Anvil stat blocks are a great way to have that information right there in front of you when you need it. You can search your articles and bring them into the digital DM's screen, as well as PCs, NPCs, magic items, and anything else, and run every facet of your game, from planning to note-keeping to session reports, all from one easy interface. DM tip number 5 for using fantasy plants is spells, feats, and magical powers. Unlimited power! So plants in our world can do a bunch of super extraordinary things. Sprinkle in a little magic and you have the basis for some really cool magical stuff. Whether you're looking to give more options to your druid or shake up that PC who's read the entire player's handbook from back to front, this is a really, really cool way of introducing more and different magic into your world. If you're looking for more inspiration on this, then remember that plants can be carnivorous, they can be parasitic and literally leech the life out of another plant. Plants can communicate with one another. We've seen the way that they release chemicals in order to do this, and they can even split stone with the force of their growth. We've talked about the cordyceps fungus before, which is literally mind-altering. Plants can also camouflage themselves in really cool and unique ways. Plants have immune systems, and they defend themselves with all sorts of cool techniques, like thorns, poisons, and even spikes that they can fire out at people. This is in the real world, guys. I'm not even talking fantasy plants right now. And speaking of ejecting stuff, plants can also ooze goop, they can fire sticky spores, and a whole host of other disgusting, gross stuff. Digging into some of these more extraordinary properties of plants is a great way to further the theme, bring in the mystery and the uniqueness of your setting, and even dig into the theme of a particular biome or of nature itself. This is perfect if you're creating nature-based magic users, or even if you just want to set the tone and theme of a new area or a new biome that your players are entering. They'll be entranced even as they run away screaming. It's challenge time! Your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is create a plant species that your players can interact with. That could be a trap, a component of a magical item, or even an attacking creature in your world. To submit your answer, click the URL in the description of this video, or wait around for a moment, it'll be on the screen in just a moment. While you're there, check out other people's answers if they have made them public, because there's always somebody doing something awesome on World Anvil, and why not post the URL of your finished article back here in the comments of this video? I cannot wait to see them. In the meantime, if this video was helpful or if it made you think, gave you an idea, then please click that like button. And remember to subscribe for more DM tips and world building advice. Now grab your hammer and go world build. I suggest the more rare you make it, because otherwise it's going to flood your society and change a lot of stuff. My cat has come to join us. Hello. Hello. Are you a magical plant? Are you Groot? Are you Groot? She is Groot.